Mathematics is everywhere in our lives, and yet few people realize how much of it they use every day, even unconsciously. This article explains a little more about how mathematics is used in the real world and how some of its basic concepts are actually used in many different fields. Mathematical analysis is used to determine the risks of business investments and how long it will take to make them, or to help predict how long it will be before a building will fall down or a bridge will break. Mathematics is used to help plan the movement of people around cities. The size and speed of vehicles is planned by traffic engineers using mathematical equations, and even the location of traffic lights and pedestrian crossings is often calculated by computers using mathematics. Mathematics is used in medicine to plan the layout of buildings and hospital rooms, and to plan where equipment should be placed. The use of mathematics in medicine is so important that medical students have to study maths for several years before they can even apply to study medicine. In education, the use of mathematics is much less obvious than in other areas, but there is no doubt that it is widely used. Every day in every school, teachers use mathematical methods and mathematical results to plan lessons. They also use mathematics to select books for reading and to test the progress of pupils. Mathematics is used by everyone from government ministers to the men and women working on the shop floor, from business executives to factory workers, from professional sports people to housewives, from civil servants to policemen, from soldiers to bank clerks. In fact, anyone who is doing anything needs mathematics. The list of people who need mathematics is so long that it would fill this whole article. It might be useful to give some examples. If you want to learn to swim, you have to know a lot of mathematics. To begin with, you need to know how to estimate how far you can dive into water. You also have to know the theory of the forces acting on a body in water, how gravity pulls you down, how the water pushes up against you, and how friction slows you down. You need to know how the speed at which you move through the water depends on your position and how much force you exert on it, as well as how the density of water affects the way you move through it. Finally, if you want to learn how to do a front crawl, which is the best stroke for swimming long distances, you need to know about the effects of the angle of the stroke on the speed and direction of movement, as well as how to estimate the time taken to do one stroke. All of this mathematics is needed because swimming is a sport which people are expected to compete in. The same applies to any sport. Even people who are not trying to become good at an individual sport usually spend a lot of time doing some form of sport. So they need to know a lot about the forces involved and how they affect the motion of the body. For example, consider the following situation. You are standing on a piece of ice skates on a lake. You have a rope tied around your waist and the other end of the rope is tied around a tree. You start walking away from the tree in a straight line. The surface of the ice is covered with a layer of snow and ice, but beneath it is water which has a depth of 2 feet. If you walk in a straight line for 1 hour, what is the total distance traveled? This is a simple problem in elementary physics, but you would not get very far by just thinking about it without knowing something about how forces work and how speeds are changed. If you were told that this was an exercise in advanced physics, then you could use the basic laws of motion and gravity and then do a little more mathematics to solve the problem. If you had read some textbooks on mechanics, you might know that this problem can be solved using calculus. But, in fact, no matter how good you are at calculus, you cannot solve this problem without first doing a lot of elementary physics, without first learning all those basic concepts such as momentum, acceleration, speed, distance, and time. Even people who are not sportsmen, but who want to build things, need some mathematics. Consider, for example, the following situation. You are building a small wall to keep out the local deer which are damaging the flowers in your garden. You have already cleared an area of about 6 feet square and have dug a trench about 3 feet deep. Now you need to lay a concrete block along the bottom of the trench and fill in the space between them with concrete. Firstly, you need to know how much concrete you need. That means calculating how much water is required for mixing the cement and the sand and gravel into concrete. You also need to know how much water each bag of cement will absorb when it is mixed with water, as well as how much sand or gravel each bag of gravel will absorb when it is mixed with water. Then you have to figure out how many bags of concrete you need and how many bags of gravel or sand. You must also take into account any extra concrete that might be needed to make the finished wall strong enough for its purpose. Finally, you need to know how long it takes to mix 1 bag of cement with 1 bag of gravel or sand. You also have to find out how much time you need to allow for getting the concrete into position in the trench and how much time is needed for the concrete to set before you can fill the remaining space between the concrete blocks with concrete. You have to allow for the time in your calculations. There are so many other ways in which mathematics is used that it would be impossible to mention them all in an article like this. However, one more example might suffice. Consider someone who has been given a job to design an advertising hoarding. He will have to decide on the shape and size of the hoarding, as well as on what colors to use on it. how big the letters should be, and what kind of pictures he can put on it. He may have to plan how the hoarding is going to be put up. In order to do this, he needs a great deal of knowledge and understanding of practical things such as how heavy a hoarding will be, how much it will cost, how much it will stand up against wind and rain, how difficult it will be to erect, what problems there are with placing it on uneven ground, how easy or difficult it will be to remove and take away when it has been used, and what problems there are in the way of keeping it clean once it has been put up. He will also have to make decisions about what kind of advertising messages should be put on the hoarding. If he is going to do a good job, he will have to have a thorough knowledge of practical matters such as how much time it takes to paint a hoarding, how long it will take to cut the letters out of the material, how long it will take to set up the hoarding, what problems there are in painting it if the weather is bad or if wind gets behind it and blows it over, what problems there are in erecting it if the ground is too soft or too hard, what problems there are in removing it if it is put up in an area where people are likely to object to its being there, what problems there are in making sure that people can see it if it is in a dark place and where people can see it if it is in a place where there are bright lights or a lot of passing cars and buses. He may need to have some knowledge about what makes people interested in advertisements and what kinds of advertisements they respond to, or how much interest they have in different kinds of things. For example, if he wants people to look at his hoarding, he will probably have to spend some money on publicity. He might need to know what kind of publicity is most effective. He might also have to know about psychology, how people's minds work, how they react to different things, how they think, how they feel about different things, and how they make decisions. If he does not understand these practical things, he may spend a lot of time and energy putting up a hoarding which nobody wants to look at. If he does not understand what kind of messages will attract attention and what messages will not, he may put up a hoarding which people don't like but which he cannot persuade himself is wrong because he has no way of measuring whether what he thinks is happening is actually happening or not.